Deep sand, the serpents, coming in right along. I think he calls me, maybe. I think he calls me.
Cool, that's it. So that basically, I'm going to show you a little piece of the animation that I added later to make it a full piece. And the whole story is that these nanobots are going to be 3D animated, and they're going to move around this warehouse of mannequins, and the mannequins are going to turn into human children. So these nanobots are going to scan DNA and culture from the rest of the world, and these sort of warehouse mannequins would arise in this little fleet of new humans. So here is basically like a sketch. Like if somebody's going to illustrate something, they do a sketch. I, as an editor, have to start editing and shooting stuff as my sketch. So anybody like it? It's kind of odd and eerie. It's kind of for the fans of deep future. I think the prop warehouse. Yeah, so ripped its own top and set it up. But as you can see, the cables are sort of another story. They just dangle there. They're not actually working. So let me show you this. This was what I started adding to this footage. It's just starting very slow. So it's this sort of mechanical arm I can play again. And these little elements are what I added for the full video. So now I'm playing with like this, animation on top of that action. Cool. All right, guys, well, listen, I'm going to open up to questions and any other discourse you want. Oh, that was in the prop house? That's cool. Doesn't it? Yeah, it's almost real. It's fun to shoot it. It's kind of a tedious process. Basically all designers work with software, and how much you get paid is depending on what software you know. You guys know like Flash and Photoshop. My software is kind of those are specifically for editing. This program is called Cybil 4D. So what I do is I develop this little robotic arm. I create it in another program. I have to use all those programs. Yes, I have to use everything that allows me to do my work in that software. Then I have to export that as this sort of invisible video with an alpha layer. And then I transplant that over to that film. And Final Cut is, great question, there's the compatibility, yeah. It is compatible, there's a lot of restriction. You just have to follow specific rules before you transform it together. And then there I can move that arm around, and it's on its own movie, so it plays on its own. So when it moves out, it plays on its own and then stops. And while the rest of the video is moving. Everything you guys see today, it's almost like, yeah, you can. It's pretty cool. You couldn't do this 15 years ago. We're just getting it now. If you guys see media today, it's all about collaboration. Target ads are all this animation on top of actors shot against screen to screen. And that was a great thing about my AlterAct tool is I developed a tool to train actors so they can learn how to act in front of green screens. Because say if you're an actor and they want you, King Kong, all those guys are on blue screen, the whole thing. It's none of that stuff was, unless for the shore scenes, but Jack Black and all those were holding fake props and screaming into a blue screen, a blank screen. That's separate. Right. That's like an in-house location. But yeah, that's kind of relative. But you're right. If you shoot it digitally, Actually, film can be shot against blue screen and green screen.
Why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you shoot film against blue screen if you're not cutting?
Oh, you have to make the actual King Kong itself.
Oh, you do.
All that stuff digital, that's called like special effects. It's like Star Wars and everything.
There's so many things that go into that.
Yeah, it's quite a process, and there's about 100 departments that work on finishing one film. It takes to finish one film.
Also, maybe you could talk a little bit about, you said you did web design, or you began?
Yeah, it started, yeah, undergrad, yeah.
So, I know pretty much the software that's involved in making a website. But you talk a little bit about the initial process of how you sort of assess what a client wants. Were you sort of freelance?
Oh yeah, for like a web shop? Like hypothetically web shop?
Yeah.
Are you about to get a web shop?
I've been trying to get.
Yeah, I can help you give you some pointers. Usually with that, that's a pretty difficult field because web design is very tough.
Yeah.
There's a lot of programming involved, and if there's one mistake, the website doesn't run properly.
Right.
It's like if you put together a motorcycle and you miss one bolt,
Right.
then you screw up. But really where I start, I've done a lot of freelance, I'm still doing freelance. Sometimes it's the best money you can do. But when I'm starting a freelance job, I talk to the client. Usually it's a phone call.